Hello and welcome to the first episode of Vita Classics, a series that will focus on the games of the underappreciated PlayStation Vita. This time I want to talk about one of the games that I bought a PlayStation Vita for in the first place, and one of my personal favorite games in recent memory. Welcome to the review of Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1. Developed by Idea Factory and Compile Heart, Hyperdimension Neptunia is a series of RPGs with visual novel trappings that use a moe presentation as its foundation. Regardless on how you feel about moe, or even if you know what the word means, the whole aesthetic, not to mention the fan service, is ultimately secondary to the main draw of the series, which is the story and characters. This is a self-aware parody series that spoofs the entire game industry itself. In fact, the world the game takes place in is even called game industry.
Game industry. A land where CPUs rule and game mascots live away from the realm of humans. Game industry is ruled by 4 CPUs who preside over 4 different nations. CPU Whiteheart rules Louis. CPU Blackheart rules La Station. CPU Greenheart rules Leanbox. And CPU Purpleheart rules Planeptune.
So as you just heard, the game begins as the world's 4 goddesses, Blackheart, Whiteheart, Greenheart, and Purpleheart, who obviously represent Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sega respectively, battle each other in what they call the console war, culminating in stalemate after stalemate. When White, Green, and Blackheart team up against Purpleheart's Sega, she gets knocked out of their heavenly realm down to Earth and loses her memory other than her name, Neptune, which of course is a direct reference to the cancelled Sega console of the same name. This perfectly sets up Neptune as a blank slate character for first-time players and easily allows her personality to grow on the player from the moment the game begins in proper. Neptune is extremely friendly and carefree, and with her sharp wit, she's always ready to make light of any situation no matter how dire, and never misses her opportunity to break the fourth wall. Because of her perky and upbeat attitude and her general affection to everyone she meets, Neptune is a very effective lead that most players will quickly grow fond of and eagerly await the next random thing that comes out of her mouth. Observant players will quickly notice that the names of just about everyone are in-jokes or references to game developers. For example, the 2 girls that Neptune meets early on are named Compa and IF. They're named after the developers of Hyperdimension Neptunia itself, Compile Heart and Idea Factory. This is an ongoing tradition with the series, and another element that sets Hyperdimension Neptunia apart from other moe games and just about everything else out there. I cannot overstate the fact that the writing and the voice acting here are so strong, the dialogue itself is the main draw to keep playing.
I won't let any of you selfish, icy bitches take the title of true goddess.
Hush now! Where did you learn such raucous manners? You think your demeanor is acceptable as a goddess?
Shut your hole! I can't stand the way you talk all high and mighty! Get out of here, Thunder Tits!
What? Breasts are symbolic for both maturity and fertility. The size of my bust equates my aptitude as a goddess. With such logic, it can be said you and Neptune are the least fitting.
The hell's that? Listen to that crap talking out your ass! I'll kill you!
The game allows players to choose between either the English or Japanese voiceover, and unlike so many other games, the acting in both languages here is top-notch. Dubbed anime aficionados will recognize voices like those of Wendy Lee and Aaron Fitzgerald, among many others. If those names don't mean anything in particular, just know that these are some of the best English voice actresses in the industry, and they can always be counted on to deliver their lines perfectly and with whatever inflection the situation demands. There isn't a single flat delivery anywhere in this game. Those who choose to play with the Japanese voices will get a range of untranslatable jokes based on Japanese puns, anime archetype speaking styles, and specific references to Japanese pop culture that sometimes go untranslated in the text boxes. That being said, both the English voice acting and the actual English script in the text boxes do a wholly remarkable job at remaining faithful to the original Japanese. This is definitely a case of translation, not Americanization. The game's script respects the intelligence of its audience, expecting basic familiarity with anime concepts such as honorifics, emotos, tsundere girls, and so on. These terms, among others, are used throughout the game to parody and poke fun at common anime and video game tropes, which, as I said before, make the script itself what you'll want to keep coming back for. Neptune will break the fourth wall every other minute, make references to other games and nerd culture, and the banter between the characters is consistently and completely legitimately funny. However, as with most jokes, the more familiar you are with the source material, in this case, games and anime, the more you'll get out of Hyperdimension Neptunia. None of these jokes or references are ever spelled out. For example, in the second game, Kampa bakes a cake for Neptune, who, before eating it, proclaims that Kampa's cakes are never a lie. This kind of joke is great for gamers, but in this case, if you're unfamiliar with the ending of Portal, then the joke falls completely flat. Like I said, the jokes here depend entirely on your familiarity with the subject matter. The more you know, the more you'll get out of it. Aside from the story and script, another very important element that Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1 gets right is its battle system. In the years between the release of the initial Hyperdimension Neptunia and this remake, Idea Factory completely overhauled its battle system, fixing absolutely everything that was wrong with the original battle system. Originally, Hyperdimension Neptunia offered an extremely slow, tedious, and frankly boring battle system that made each battle a chore and completely not fun. Building upon the battle system first established in Hyperdimension Neptunia MK2, Rebirth 1 uses a battle system based on range, strategy, and speed. You have 3 basic attacks that can be comboed together or use magic spells. The 3 attacks consist of break attacks that do little damage but erode away an enemy's defense so the next attack hits harder, power attacks that deal direct damage against non-guarding enemies, and rush attacks that rely on speed to land many hits at once. Taking full into account the fact that this is a portable experience, battle animation can be entirely skipped by holding down the left trigger. In a nutshell, the battle system here is the polar opposite of the original game. The battle system here is fast, fluid, and most importantly, it's fun. Don't let the moe aesthetic fool you into thinking this is an easy game. It's far from it. You'll need to play carefully and get into the habit of saving often. Unless you carefully plan your moves, bosses and even regular enemies can take out your entire party in just a single hit. And the game offers no retries. If you die, it's always back to the last save file. There are 3 DLC characters that are 99 cents apiece, and will make the game considerably easier as they serve as powerful tank characters, and one of them even offers healing spells. Their inclusion does not impact the story at all. It's simply a matter of making the game easier. Visually, the game is bright and vibrant, and looks absolutely excellent on the Vita. The game almost always maintains a rock-solid frame rate, and Rebirth 1 offers 3D models that look almost as good as its PS3 counterparts. Even the visual novel talking heads are wonderful to look at, since the portraits smoothly animate as the characters breathe, and they also have animated mouth movements for when they're speaking, and moe facial expressions that span the gambit of typical anime reactions. Compared to something even as good looking as Persona 4 Golden, Rebirth 1 is a really gorgeous game. Music-wise, the game is a little dry. While the music here isn't bad, there's nothing that will really stand out. Ultimately, the music here is just average, but that's perfectly fine with me since the focus should be on the voice acting, which it is. Somewhat disappointing, however, is the large amount of scenes throughout the middle part of the game where the English voice cast do not in fact voice the game. The Japanese voices are omnipresent, but likely to cut localization costs, the English voices are only used for the most important scenes, and minor banter is left text only. Another complaint I have is that the English version is not compatible with the PlayStation TV, for really no other reason than Sony simply hasn't upgraded the firmware for it. The game does not make use of either touch panel, so it really is just a case of sheer laziness on Sony's part. Still, it makes for one hell of a portable experience on the go with the Vita, so I can't be too mad. If you've ever played an Idea Factory or Compile Heart game before, you know that these games tend to recycle assets, and Neptunia Rebirth 1 is no exception. Although there are more than 30 dungeons throughout the entire game, there are less than 10 unique maps that they all share. The only real difference between Virtua Forest and Arc Lad Forest are the enemies and story progression points. Otherwise, they share the exact same map. Aside from these small issues though, Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1 is one of the most solid RPGs on the Vita. If you've never played Hyperdimension Neptunia before and are intrigued by the now sprawling franchise, this is the perfect point to jump in. If you were one of the unfortunate souls who started the first game on the PlayStation 3 and quit because it was frankly awful, I strongly recommend you give this remake a chance. It fixes just about everything that was wrong with the original game and greatly expands it as well. Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1 is one of my favorite games in recent memory and comes highly recommended, even if you're someone who doesn't usually enjoy moe anime. So that'll about do it for this review. Thanks for watching guys. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, and if you enjoyed this video, please take the 2 seconds to hit the like button and subscribe. I'll try to do my best to produce new videos like this in the future every so often. So like I said before, thanks for watching and take care.